It was a beautiful afternoon, and the sun cast a golden glow over the wedding venue. The guests were seated, the decorations were perfect, and soft music played in the background. The bride, dressed in a stunning white gown, walked gracefully down the aisle. Her eyes sparkled with happiness as she approached the love of her life, the groom, who stood at the altar, waiting for her with a smile. Just as the ceremony was about to begin, a hushed murmur spread through the guests. A stray dog had wandered into the venue. It was thin, covered in dust, and had the saddest eyes anyone had ever seen. The guests looked at each other, some amused, some concerned. Who had let the dog in? The bride noticed the dog first. Instead of being startled, she felt a strange pull toward it. As she kneeled down, the dog cautiously stepped closer, sniffing her hand. The moment was unexpected but oddly touching. Then, something even more surprising happened. The dog turned its head toward the groom and locked eyes with him. The groom gasped, his face turning pale. His hands trembled as he took a step closer. The guests watched in stunned silence. Memories flooded his mind. Memories of a small, playful puppy he had once loved as a child. They had been inseparable. But one day the puppy had gone missing. He had searched everywhere, cried for days, but the puppy had never returned. And now, years later, at the most important moment of his life, here it was standing before him. Tears welled up in his eyes as he whispered, "Max, is that you?" The dog wagged its tail wildly and let out a small, happy bark. Without hesitation, the groom knelt and wrapped his arms around the dog, hugging it tightly. The guests gasped, some wiping their own tears. The bride smiled warmly, realizing that this was fate. The dog had found its way back to the one person who had once loved it the most. With hearts full of emotion, the couple decided that this reunion was no accident. The dog had returned home. And so, instead of being shooed away, the stray dog became an honored guest at the wedding. As the ceremony continued, the dog sat beside the couple, as if it had always belonged there. When the vows were exchanged, the dog barked happily, as if giving its approval. That day, the groom not only married the love of his life but also reunited with a long-lost friend. And as they walked away from the wedding, hand in hand, the dog trotted beside them, no longer a stray but a part of their family.